Hey, this is the Game of Money. I'm Oren Klaff. I'm here with Walker Deibel. It's EI. The subject today, Walker, that I really want to talk about with you is this, is everybody wants to be a mountain man until it's time to do mountain man.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is what is so interesting about you, right? Everybody wants to talk about finance, do deal making, jump into deals, make money, be an entrepreneur, be hard in the paint, doing stuff until it's time to do stuff.
It's true. Yeah.
When I look at you and I become very good, our relationship has become very warm and friendly. I love working with you.
You too.
We do the same. Thank you. But the thing is, I just know how hard it is to run a list, to run a newsletter, to put out content, to help people educate themselves at the same time as finding themselves, and at the same time, making that pay so you're not funding free content and heating the ocean. And also doing deals. And you showed up here, did a little bit of due diligence, and you wrote a check, right? Like, boom, check, money, gone. You did a sniff test. You're doing deals. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and a deal maker, but they talk about it.
Yeah.
What is the difference between what gives you the ability to jump into a deal, write a check, to jump into something, no, it's not real. Jump into something, no, it is real. And what is the difference between people who say they want to do all this and people who are really doing it?
Oren, thank you. And whether you intended it or not, I actually take what you just said as a big compliment, right? But it's really just, I think, a observation of our personality, right? In other words, I think that number one, I'm just a driven guy. I've taken out so many personality assessments. I was obsessed with them 15 years ago. I took all of them, and all of them were like, "You're driven." I'm like, "Thanks." I'm not hiding it that I want to make a lot of money, and I wanted to make a lot of money, and it's just I've always viewed wealth as like being the key to freedom, which is really being the key to chill. However,
this is such, so we got to stay here. But by the way, did you take the Minnesota Multi-Phase Personality Index?
No, I didn't take that one.
That's the one that tells us if you're a stalker or serial killer. That's the one. Okay. No need to take the test now.
Right, exactly. Right. We got it. But I think that more importantly, what I learned early on was I worked corporate right out of school, as many of us do, because we're not all Zuck, right?
Yeah.
But I worked corporate, and I had a big problem not being in the room where the decisions were made, right? And I saw wrong decisions being made, and then I saw wrong decisions being overcorrected and all the rest of it. And it was like, this is not fun for me. I am not built for this. And really, entrepreneurship, I feel, is more of a condition than anything else, right? You just want it and you just have to do it, right? And I like playing with other people, but I also like beating to my own drum and just being able to have control over decisions, right? So I think that number one, finding ways in which you can have control also often aligns with financial reward, right? And I think that once that you can align decision making with kind of like your personal balance sheet and building assets, whether that be tangible real estate or whatever, intangible IP or something else. That's where I always call it the most engaged life, because like you have the most at stake. You've got the most all in on the table, but it's up to you to navigate and make the right decision.
This is what I see. The gap between somebody gives me money. I know who that person is. I have an agreement with them. If they don't give me money, I can go yell at them.
Yes.
And I have figured out how to make money on my own. Just too wide for most people. And that's why I say mountain man.
I see.
Mountain man is just living on the mountain, off the land. There's no supermarket. There's no power, right? You are responsible for yourself. And that gap. So what has happened in the modern age, I think we have fetishized or fantasized or made dream that gap. And nobody really understands how harsh an environment is to leave a paycheck behind, spend your own money with no certainty, right? And then they don't match it up with skills, and the failure rate is unbelievable.
It's true. So I think that I wrote a book on buying small businesses, right? And going all the way back to 2002, 2004, right, when I was really starting to learn about it, even back then, I was looking at the keywords. I was looking at what are people searching on the internet for. People wanted to buy laundromats. People wanted to buy car washes, And I was like, those aren't the types of businesses I'm looking into. But that's what was getting traffic.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't even think car washes are a business. I think it's real estate, but whatever. I think laundromats are actually real estate, but whatever. What's the point? The point is that even with Acquisition Lab or whatever, every single time I hire another marketing team, every time I'm interviewing one, I already know what they're going to say before they say it. And then they go do homework for a week and then they come back and they're like, listen, we want you to run ads around this. And I already know what they're going to say. And it's just, no, I don't do that. And it's how to buy a business with no money down, meaning no skin in the game, right? Good luck, right? You know, like that's not going to happen for you. And number
Carlton
two,
Sheets.
Yeah.
No money down.
Yeah. It's just, if you don't have skin in the game, what are you doing? Go home, go to work. You know what I'm saying? Or people they want to buy 17 companies and replace them all with like operators and go to the beach and chill. And it's, what are you doing? Why are you buying a business if you don't want to work in it?
Yeah.
At some level, right? Okay, Stone, you're not the CEO. We don't need to be the CEO. We're making the deals.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of different levels.
I see an interesting version of that, which is it's the same self-suicide, which is I want to invent this thing and then go raise venture capital. Or I want to go do private equity. So if private equity comes in or venture capital comes in, you're not an entrepreneur, right? It is, you're entrepreneur because you got something to the stage where it could attract venture capital, but now you have a job at a company that has a capital partner who controls the deal. And if you perform, then you get to keep your job. And you get to remain like an entrepreneur. But really you work in a corporation under corporate guidelines, under structured finance rules inside the fence, so to speak, inside the corporate environment. And going and raising money to do a company is not the same as you're just back into maybe a highly paid job where you have, if everything works perfectly, you have more equity, but you're still at a job in a company that may not be any better than a job you had at Oracle or Microsoft or anything like that. Maybe you're a little bit more passionate about it. You're not an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I know. So I used to race bicycles, and it's like when you watch the Tour de France, Lance Armstrong or all the pro teams, and they've got all the best gear, right?
Yeah.
And what everyone wants you to think, or maybe you do think, is, okay, the people at the top of their game, they're using all this best gear. But what's really happening is all of the gear companies are giving them because they want their gear seen on the bike. And I've often felt venture capital looks like it's all the best entrepreneurs are like, look, use venture capital, go for venture capital. But what's really happening is venture capital is pushing the idea of venture capital because that's how they make money. And 75% of venture capital backed deals go completely to zero. It's a VC game. So I think what you're saying is, for me, acquisition entrepreneurship is put skin in the game, take out a personally guaranteed loan, own the whole thing, control the whole thing, go to work, right? That's the biggest life possible. That's where you have all the control, you have all the upside, and you're not giving away the most valuable thing in the world to somebody else.
When I work with Crosslink, I think I said this before, we would meet with entrepreneurs who were trying to raise capital from Crosslink and also use me to help them raise capital. And the guy I work with there always say, hey, our valuation is 25 million. We're raising 15 million for a post money of 40. And he would always say, look at this plan here, right? This shows you're going to be $1 billion company in 3 years, whatever it is. If you really believed in this, why would you be selling any of your equity today? You would be doing...
Touché.
You would be doing different. You would be having a bake sale, right? You'll be selling your car. Like, I understand you should be raising money, but you'll be trying to reduce because every dollar that you can protect your cap table with, by this plan that you're showing me, you're gonna make $1,000. You're super smart guys. You're like, if you could put a dollar in and make $1,000, you'd be selling your car, you'd be selling everything you have, you'd be doing bake sales, and you're not doing any of that stuff, which scares me. If you really believed in this plan, you would not be selling your equity. And those are conversations you and I keep having. Hey, we could get $10 over here. We could get $200,000 over here. We could do it as debt so we don't have to sell equity.
It's true.
What can we do? If I can work on a Saturday and protect the cap table from you diluting, from me diluting, I try and do it because I am confident in the plan. I don't want to sell off any more equity than we absolutely have to. And because I believe in the deal. And so I think it boils down to you have to take some risk and you have to stay in control, and then you have to build something that you're capable of building.
Yeah.
The way that you get a better job there, you don't just go, something is open, you go, hey, I want to be the head of capital markets Asia, right? You crush the job that you're doing.
Yes.
And you move from crushing something
Yes.
into the next thing.
That's right.
I think people go, hey, I haven't crushed the thing I'm doing, and now I want to move up into a
promotion.
3 times
Yeah.
bigger. I want to self-promote myself into a game, and then you've got Instagram and feeding you like, take a big risk, jump for it. If you don't risk, you're not really living life and everything, but you've got to be crushing something and move. The times that I've lost, I've made steps that are too big.
Yeah.
Tried a mountain that's too high, didn't have the gear, whatever metaphor you want to use.
Yeah.
It's take a risk, stay in control, but the third piece is something that you're capable of doing.
The way that I help people who are looking for a business to buy is it's you have to understand what it is you bring to the table, and then we need to look for a business opportunity that can capitalize on that, because you're the one now that's leading the company, right? Your je ne sais quoi, your special talent is the thing that needs to be able to take that business to the next level, right? And I also believe that by doing that, to your point, you're taking one step outside your comfort zone, but you're not overstretching and becoming overwhelmed, right? Coming back to sort of the beginning of this conversation, one of the things that I learned along the way is there's this concept called the corridor principle. Do you know this?
No.
It was a professor at Wharton, and whose name is escaping me right now. But the point is, like, everyone looks at entrepreneurs and they're like, man, they are so risky. And this professor was looking at entrepreneurs and realizing once someone is an entrepreneur, the odds that they're going to be a serial entrepreneur are actually extremely high, right? And so he started studying them and saying, like, why do you take all these risks? And what he discovered was this. Entrepreneurs don't really think that they're taking a risk. And it's not because they're dumb, okay? Yeah. And he called it corridor principle, because what happens is everyone's standing in the living room, but the one person that just starts walking down the hallway, the corridor, that person can turn their head and look in and see the rooms. And they're like, here's a room right here, and I see it so clearly. I have, let's just hypothetically, I have the manufacturer that has 95% of all equipment in the space. I've got new technology. I've got existing POs in this space. I've got all this stuff. So it's like it looks from someone who's never done that before is, this is crazy. You're building a facility in Dallas with like Italian people? What is this? That's crazy. And it's at the end of the day, it's not. It's just taking pieces that are just laying there on the ground and snapping in a back end. Sorry, private joke.
So the corridor principle is what you start walking and you can see better.
You can see into the rooms that the people in the living room can't see.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it's simply taking that first step, begin walking down the corridor, where you then begin to see opportunities that other people can't see, so they perceive that you're being risky.
So this is what I have, and I wonder if you have this as well, because I worked in institutional deals. You know, we acquired the DoubleTree in downtown Phoenix. It's a real hotel. So at that time, that asset was probably $27 million. So we were just like stroking a $27 million check. We stroked a $2 million check internally. Then we got, at that time, you could get 60% debt, 40% equity. And so we got a debt commitment from Goldman Sachs for 60%. So we needed, $2 million. Say $2 million on 25 was 10%.
Okay.
We were writing at 10%, but we needed 40% equity, so we had to go raise another. Let me see. So go raise another $6-7 million bucks. And then get the debt from Goldman Sachs, and we put that deal together and close. And that required you had to get an appraisal, you had to get environmental. You're working with Goldman Sachs. You have to have a pro forma. DoubleTree has to sign off on you. You have to have a sponsor report. You have to have traction in the space. Your equity partners have to be qualified investors. You have to have a structured entity. That entity has to be approved, audited. It has to be approved by the DoubleTree platform. This is a year of work. These are institutional quality deals to buy an asset. And then let's see where I was going with that is, I don't know. That was such an intense subject. My
Deal
mind
making.
blew up in it. But
the corridor.
I had a very certain point on it.
It looks risky.
Oh, yes. Okay, correct. And that deal makes sense because you're buying a DoubleTree in downtown Phoenix. So the deal we're doing, in which we have a multi-$100 million institutional partner that's been doing it for 6 years, knows what they're doing. We're building their next generation factory here in Dallas, et cetera. If you want to learn about that deal, like contact Walker and he'll tell you more about it. But when I go home at night, right, I go into a panic. If I go home at night, from the time I get home to the time I leave in the morning, like I have these panic attacks. Like we're building this supersized factory. Then I come in and I get into entrepreneur mode, or I get into execution mode, and then I'm just in that. I'm in that gunner turret in the bubble. Just load me up, turn on the 50 cal, all done. Like bogey, left turn, 5 degrees, knocked out, 3 coming in low. Do you see those zeros? I got them, track them. Yeah, you put the skulls on my seat. I'll be up there. Hey, you guys, anything to eat? Yeah, we'll pass it through. 0, left, turning left. Winchester fuel, back to base, and just like that all day long. And it just feels very normal. It does not feel risky at all. I'm in total control. And then I get home and I'm like, what in the world have we taken on? But when I'm actually in the gunner's cockpit, it is zero. I have no concern with every bogey that comes out of anywhere. Because of my career, I have the financial or legal or structure skill to deal with it in the moment. So it doesn't feel risky at all. And I think the thing I would layer on top of that is a very good friend of mine was like, who I showed this deal very early on. He's like, you can't put any money into it until absolutely what this building costs to build. What it's going to cost you in Dallas to hire people, labor law, what power and water, because he's a developer. And he's like, you're crazy, you can't do anything. I'm like, we'll sort all that out because those are solvable. And if it's not solvable in the zip code we have in Dallas, we'll move out to a further out zip code until the water and the power and the building and the square foot makes sense. And it easily sorted itself out. So all the people who could have stepped in here and made $100 million by writing a couple dollar check at the beginning, they were not entrepreneurs in the sense.
I just want to say, like, when I'm doing something myself, like when you're putting your life into it, you can start it earlier and be more comfortable, or you can take it on later and take more personally guaranteed debt and be comfortable. I think that when it comes to me investing in other people's deals, like Oren, I think on one level, it's, for lack of a better description, it's like game recognizes game. Knowing you and knowing how you're attacking and understanding your work ethic and understanding your past, I know you can do it. Let me say it like this. Shit's going to happen. Something's going to happen. I don't know. But it's also like to your developer, I think it was Elon Musk who said something. I don't remember the story, but he's talking about flying to Mars or whatever. And he gave the pitch like 50 times. Then like the 51st time, some neuro-astro scientist physics dude in the back was like, yeah, but like when you hit Mach 7 doing a 45-degree rotator angle turn, the spaceship's going to bust into flames. Something like this. And Elon Musk said, yeah, we're working through that. It was just like, I don't actually have a solution for that, but we're going to figure it out. Because if we stop and just put pencils down because there's something that we think might be unsolvable, mankind doesn't move forward. We don't go to Mars. We don't build a spaceship. We don't build a factory. We don't build a building. We don't get out of bed. It's one of these where had you and I met during your A1, I haven't done anything yet. That's not something I'm personally going to write $1 million check for. Okay. I wouldn't write $100,000 check for that. It's too early. It's too early. It would look very promising, but for me, it wasn't until the A2 where I was like, now. Because there was enough there. You had enough momentum. And the thing is you have to recognize when there's points in a deal where the right level of safety and security is there, the foundation is there, but like the biggest gain is about to be had, other than the people that came in at the seed round, which is, let's just call it high risk. So it's like once the right things are in place, then the biggest gains can be made right away. So I see that in you.
No, and when I have to look at myself. One of the things, you're doing something this big and requires this much money, I have to look at myself and say, okay, if I look at this character that is myself, there's a couple things I need in this character, right? One, the ability to do math in a spreadsheet. And this is what kills a lot of deals that I look at, is nobody is running a model like every day, like pulling it up, changing the numbers. And that's the number one thing we see in a deal. If the guy running the deal is not have a model that stretches out 10 years and he's like changing it every day. Oh, freight is not $2,800. Now it's $2,850. I'm just putting in that and going, okay, that's how much money I need. And now we can charge this much for it. Oh, now we need less money, but it's going to take us another 2 months. Oh, so we need a little bit more money. Like running that model and being so intimate with it. So can that person do math?
Yeah.
Because we're the STEM system: science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yeah.
The M in STEM. I like this. Yo, the M in STEM is for math. Like, School Rock, Scholastic, School Rock. Can that person do math? Number one, can that someone articulate the plan to capital and to investors and to banks? Can they speak to money? Because you're always going to need money.
Yeah.
Microsoft has debt, right? Because what do you think Microsoft has in cash on the balance sheet?
I don't know. I haven't looked at any time recently.
It's probably $28-30 billion,
Sure.
$40 billion in cash. It might be 100, but it's something between 20 and 100
Like
billion.
100 billion? That's a lot of.
That seems like a lot to have in cash.
Is it cash or debt? Is the question cash?
Cash, but they carry debt too.
Yeah.
So they have $100 billion in cash and $40 billion in debt because they got a spread. It's like the yen carry trade.
Yeah.
And so somebody at Microsoft, they have $100 billion in cash. You think that's not a skill we need is to go talk to banks. We are the bank.
Yeah.
We're bigger than any other bank we know.
Yeah.
And so even Microsoft has to have the ability to talk to banks. So can you run a spreadsheet for the businesses? Are you really running cash flow and the model? Not the 3-statement model, not an income statement, but really a cash in, cash out. I'm running the business model from a cash standpoint. Are you running that even if it's a big business? So you understand like the heartbeat of the business from a cash standpoint. Number two, is there somebody there who can go talk to banks and money? Even Microsoft needs debt to run their business. And then number three, is there somewhere in this thing a product guy who talks to customers? So you can actually see what is, because you can have value proposition, you can have features and benefits, you can have beat the competition, you can have positioning, you can have the 5 Ps, price, whatever they are. So, but somebody has to be there talking to customers, and the customers have to be like, yeah, I want it. So you have to know what's happening at the customer level. That's why, as I've said before, you can't get off a squawk box as a CEO without going, good CEOs, I spend a third of the time on the road talking to customers. Somebody in that business that you have access to is talking to customers. You can see what they want. Somebody's running a spreadsheet, and then somebody's talking to banks. And by the way, if that's the same person, then that meets. And so then I said, that has to be me.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be taking in money and talking about having a big deal and the likelihood of it. And so that's what I mean, like mountain man. So Friday at 5:30, if all that is not done, I don't get to do what I want to do, which is go home and have dinner with my family. And that is the entrepreneur part. Nobody's supplying me a guaranteed check.
Yep.
I have taken risk by putting my name on something. When in your model, that's getting some debt from the SBA or something that you're responsible for. I put my name on it, taking money in it. I'm running the model, right? So I can see all the tiny micro movements in it. I'm talking to the market, so I know the stuff we come out with, there's actual buyers for it that I know. And if we need more money, I can talk to money. And that to me is then when you are free to get away from the corporate or the capitalist machine and run your own thing.
It's interesting listening to you explain that. Is like you're basically explaining like all the components of not necessarily business strategy as much as like how do we make a good tasting stew. We're going to put in all these pieces. But it's interesting because I do feel like in order to be a good deal maker, okay, you're talking about aligning yourself with money, which is true. I'm just going to use the term deal maker because maybe you're selling a company, maybe you're buying a company, maybe you're doing financial engineering to structure something. The point that I'm getting to is I feel like being able to understand how good or bad a deal is and what you can actually, how you can structure it. I was going to say how much you can saddle it with, but that's the wrong. But the point is I feel like being an entrepreneur is actually the thing that allows you to see it. Because I feel like you can see deals like the Matrix. Let me give you an example. I've been packaging a deal the last couple of weeks that I'm taking out to sell. like in my broker role. Okay. And at first I was talking with the seller, and it's a small e-com business, a couple $1 million, whatever it is. And I was like, I like the entrepreneur a lot. Like, I know how dialed in she is. She's very type A, went to exclusive schools, had the right resume. Like, I know her very well. And I was like, I'll work with you even though it's a small deal. I'm not that prone to small deals. I'm not afraid of them. But the point is, I was really concerned about the business, because I was like, it's like a drop shipping. Like, you don't own the brand. You don't own the... And so I was like, you're probably looking at this sort of lower valuation or whatever. And it's one of these where, because I did the work, putting the deal together, like just like hours and hours of getting into it and being like, wait, what? And then running this way and that way and into it. There's this hierarchy when I'm looking at something that I've been engaged to sell. And the best version is when I dig in, I realize I have this thought in my head that's, maybe I should buy this. But I have a rule with myself that I can't. But I got that feeling. And I was trying to talk to the bank early, and they're like, I don't know if I like that deal. And I was like, no, you're gonna like it. Like, it's, you know how it is. It's, what do you think on the first pass? What do you think on the second pass? I sent it to them fully packaged 2 days ago, and was like, okay, look at this. I really like this deal. I had the 40-page thing with all the P&Ls and all the stuff. And I sent it to them, and they came back with a premium price on it. Yeah. Because it's like, we all of a sudden got it. Yeah. Because, like you just described, it's like, because I've run this before, you've run the playbook before, and you're like, nope. Like, if that piece isn't there, this whole thing falls apart. Yeah. It's like this interconnected value wheel. And it's, if the wheel isn't complete, then like it's a lopsided wheel, which is almost worthless. Yeah. Like, it's the little things that can end up making big value. But to this day, every time my dad calls me and says, how you doing? I'm like, Dad, I'm running down the street with a broken leg and a bullet in me, and I'm hoping someone's picking up all the shit I left behind me. That's what it feels like. I am an embracer and a victim of hustle culture. Yeah. Because we were at a retreat type thing recently, and this gentleman stood up in the park. It was a beautiful day, and he was like, I haven't gone on a vacation in seven weeks or something like that. And I just started laughing. I'm pretty sure the last time I was on vacation was like 10 years ago. I literally took my wife on our honeymoon to a conference. True story.
So I agree. Maybe we can wrap up on this, because I get this question all the time. People are like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, the right answer is like, oh, great. Because you just know, you don't want to burden people with your problems. And when somebody says, how are you doing? The right answer is like, oh, I'm doing great. Everything's peachy. How are you doing? I just literally can't say it. The words will not come out of my mouth. I know. There's no reason to get in a big, oh, what's going on with you? Just say, it's great. Yeah. Couldn't be better. I'm the best shape of my life, right? Now I'm going to tell you what happens in our bedroom. We have a private chef that's cooking every meal, and my son is getting straight A grades in school, and he's just got admitted to Harvard, and he's 10 years old. I don't know. Maybe I'm lucky, maybe I'm smart. That's the right answer. But I'm like, oh. And the answer that I've landed on, the best I can do is, hey, I'm streaking. Right? I'm like, what do you mean you're streaking? I'm like, from old school. Like, my wife is pulling up in the car. Honey, what are you doing? Right? We're streaking. Who's we? Me and the guys. There's nobody behind you. I'm streaking.
Look, yeah, we're all having naked in public dreams, but I think stress can be high. But I think the thing is, we're both really in the game right now. And I think that for me, ultimately, what I've just figured out is the whole game here is just, how do we do really cool projects? Like, how do we build really cool stuff with really great people and just like stack cash? Because that's gonna have the most rewarding outcome even at the end, right? So it's, I know you make time for your family every day, and I know you do, because you texted to me.
I do. Between 7 o'clock and 7:15, I'm there for them, no matter what. As long as I'm not brushing my teeth or taking a shower, I'm there. I'm right there, fully present. Mm-hmm. I was talking to an entrepreneur that you would know from TV today, and he's putting together a deal, and everything is, it's a multi-billion-dollar deal, and I got the Verizon and AT&T at the table, and we got 80 million names, and it's this thing, and we're trying to divide it up, and they want me to subordinate I'm the founder, but now money is coming in, and people are coming in, and they want me to earn into my equity, right? And I'm just like, just call him, Joe, stop, right? 55 years old, you have enough money to live, you got a family, you're stepping into something that is too big. Just if it's $1 billion thing and you're going to have to earn in your equity from the age 55 to 62 and you have never done this before, stop. It's too big. Boil it down to $100 million thing, own 50% of it, and go from strength into the $1 billion game.
Yeah.
And so something that you said triggered is, yeah, we're playing the game. We're moving money. We're building a business. We're stacking cash, because when you're executing, and this is what I'll leave you with, it lets you see all these other things and know if they're real or not.
That's right.
When you're just poking around in venture capital, or even if you run a fund and you're not actually in the game building a business, when you look out at these other things, you don't know if they're real. And if you want to be able to analyze a business, there's no better place than doing it from inside another business that you're doing stuff in.
It's an analogy. The first business I bought is a book printing company. I ran it for 7 years, okay? 50,000 square feet, big equipment, like all the things. And the thing is that the struggles and the pain that we had during that time, there was new technology coming out, it was a very mature space, was all about Clayton Christensen's Innovator's Dilemma. And I took the chart out of the book and I printed it out and I put it above my computer on my wall there in my office. And I looked at it every day and I was like, what is the solution? Like, we're obviously not going to deep dive into what the Innovator's Dilemma is on this call. Unless you want to, we can just go another 90 minutes. But the point is, because of my experience in that industry and because of my experience facing that problem directly, when you pitched OK Stone and I saw it for the first time in all of its beauty, I immediately went back to that experience. And the thing is that some people looking at that deal that haven't had that experience, they're not going to get it. They're going to ask questions about the competition and, hey, competition this and competition that, and isn't blah, blah, blah. And these are all good questions, but it's because I lived it that I know this isn't like first mover advantage and that's it. This is a whole different level of you guys can't come in.
It's so good. We can't do this for another 90 minutes, but when I came into the deal and I met Breton, because I started a group called Spin Out Technology Ventures. Where I went out, this was now a long time ago. I don't want to say
before
how long
Breton?
ago. Long time ago. So this was almost 25 years ago.
Oh, got it.
Right? And I had a billionaire fund it. And the thesis was I was going to go around. I'm a smart, young, technical, have some experience with finance and good with people and good at business development. And I went to Qualcomm. I went to SAIC. So these are like tech firms.
Smart.
Like, what do you have on the shelf?
Yeah.
Because my thesis was like big companies with no experience, but my sense is big companies have this sitting on the shelf. They're like, we couldn't, because they're not entrepreneurial. Right. They develop something, like we couldn't get it to work, have on the shelf. We come in and say, hey, you keep 20% of it. I've got money. I'll put it in. We'll commercialize it.
Yep.
And that stuff that is a myth, because I spent 2 years doing that and it doesn't exist. I was at Qualcomm. I was at SAIC. I was way deep in the JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab. There has to be stuff there. At the Technology Transfer Office at UCLA. And that stuff just doesn't, it's just not just sitting on the shelf, and other people are looking for it, super smart people. And so these technologies that are developed, have years in it, that are good quality, you can just grab them, snap in some money, snap in some people, take to market out of a technology transfer office and just find it on the shelf. It is not there.
Yeah.
Okay. So then when I saw Breton with a fully developed technology that is commercially viable in the US market, that is an established market, I'm like, from all those years of being in technology transfer and finding nothing of any value and just seeing this big, fat goose egg, this beautiful Fabergé egg sitting there, I was like, oh my God, this is what I spent 10 years looking for and finally realized didn't exist. It exists here in Italy.
Exactly.
And I was like, so I had the same thing. I just knew.
Yeah.
And my friend was like, you'll never get a building. And I'm like, I don't need a building. I'll do this in a field. Women have babies all over the world in fields. You don't need a hospital, all right? To run this factory, I don't care if I have a building. Just give me power. hour. Once I saw that, I knew this was a big business I just knew from having been in that.
Yeah.
So,
Oren, thanks for having me.
all right, really appreciate it.